energy leaks always precede any kind of medical condition. They're caused by an energy block. Blocks in turn are caused by an emotional event, either in this life or a past life. What I know is that everything's healable. I know that the body has a tremendous capacity to heal, even if doctors and our Western medicine says, well, you just have to live with this the rest of your life.
Julie, my lovely, so good to have you back on the podcast.
Oh, my honor. Always a delight to be with you.
And before I dive into the first question with you, what I want to open up into, I actually watched you on your live yesterday, so your most recent live.
Okay.
And as a facilitator, I was in so much admiration of you in the hot seat and juggling technology. You had your assistant helping you, and then people coming on the call, and how you were just diving in with them instantaneously and working through what was ever coming up for you. And I know you don't know what's coming forward. It just happens.
Right.
Mate, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Thank you. And that was a repeat, actually, because I was out of town. So I didn't do, a new one. But yeah, they've all been the same. And that's why I say it's so much fun on Thursday nights on my show at 8 Eastern, because I never know who's calling. I never know what their questions are going to be. I never know what Spirit's going to say. So I say it's kind of like a big crapshoot, which makes it really fun.
No, it was really great to watch and witness you in your power there. Yeah, no, it was incredible, mate.
And my buffet of psychicness is what I call it. We can talk to your dead grandma. I can scan your cat. I can scan you. We can do healings. We can do past lives. We can do whatever. Talk to your spirit guides, angels, whatever.
Well, on that, like, how do you know which tool to pull out, or is it just coming, like, you've been so adversed in this work, it just comes naturally, and then you're just on it, depending on the person in front of you?
It's instant. It's instant. I always say it's a good thing I'm a girl guy, because I can multitask. It's a female superpower. So I'm getting what I call divine downloads. I'm getting information in from spirit. I'm connecting to the person. If they want me to scan them, a medical scan, I'm like a human MRI. I can see inside their bodies with their permission, of course, and see broken bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer, or whatever, and then facilitate energetic healing. So I'm describing, like kind of healing, I'm describing what I'm seeing in my mind's eye. I'm talking to the person, and I'm getting divine downloads. So have you ever seen that image of there's a woman and she's got about 8 arms coming out, and one's holding a computer and one's holding her phone and one's holding something else? That's kind of how I feel. But it's a female superpower.
It must be, because I'm like, one task, one thing, don't talk to me if I'm in the moment doing it, because I've got no chance, On that as well, is that a gift that we're all born with, or you're born with? Is it something that's developed, a skill set, like, to get to that point? How does it work?
It's both. We all come in with the hardware. We all come in with the intuitive capabilities. And little children, you know this, when your kids were really little, they're very intuitive and very psychic, and they don't have a filter, so they don't know they're not supposed to say stuff. And then as they get older, usually it's been my experience around the age of about 7 or 8, grown-ups will say, "Oh, honey, that's just your imagination. That's not really real. You don't really have a friend. It's imaginary." Well, that child has a friend. It's just the grown-ups can't see it. And that child can communicate. And then we learn to shut it down. And then for whatever reason, it's just opening it back up and nurturing it and developing it. I'd like to joke and say I didn't have dead people chasing me as a child, or if I did, I didn't know about it, let alone what I would have done with that information. So I learned how to do all of this stuff, and this is what I teach.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, isn't it? My daughter has just turned 6, and we So I got a lady coming on the podcast soon called Dr. Edith. I can never pronounce her last name, so I'm not going to attempt at the moment. But she works with children.
Uh-huh.
And we had a session on teaching my daughter to see without eyes, where you
Right.
put the blindfold on. And as a demonstration, she called her 11-year-old son over and would sit there and she said, go on. And so he put his blindfold on, all completely blacked out, picks up a completely messed Rubik's Cube, and it's just there. And within about 2 or 3 minutes, the Rubik's Cube was finished.
Wow.
And I was
Interesting.
like, that is incredible. And she was saying that he's actually he's not even using his mind to solve the Rubik's Cube.
What's he using?
Well, it's just information coming through. So it's not like thought. He just intuitively knows where to go with it and he can see it.
Yeah. Well, the information that these little children get, and a lot of them can't even read yet, is just mind-boggling, especially if it's about a spirit who, let's say, is a deceased loved one. Maybe the child's great-grandparent who's been dead for 40 years or something, and they're able to corroborate and validate the information they get. And then a lot of times about past lives, and we can get historic information online, and he's just going, you can't make this stuff up. It's just, there's just no way. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. So watch this space and see where that goes anyway. But the question I wanted to open up with you, because what seems to be a hot topic around conversation is the energetic shifts on the planet. And there's even a conversation around a lot of people are choosing to lean into much more love and compassion and kindness and a heart-based, much more feminine energy as well, way of living. But then there's another half almost burrowing down into the old paradigm and more fear, that's being perpetuated. That seems to be a conversation that seems to come up through the podcast. But what I wanted to ask you was that I know you talk about the 12 phases of transition that happens when somebody leaves this world. And I was wondering, is it possible that humanity as a whole is going through its own phases of transition right now, as if the old self is dying? I don't know. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
I had a woman named Dr. Christine Page on the show recently, and she wrote a book called The Magic of Mother Nature. And she's been to historic and sacred sites all over the world and looked at the energetic ley lines and the mythology and the archaeology and the science and all that jazz. And she says that the planets are lined up, and actually it was last night. The planets are all lined up in a straight line, and it's the first time in 12,000 years that this has happened. And I am no astrophysicist, but I can remember what she had to say. And she was talking about how that is completely changing the frequency of the planet. So I've heard other people say that too. That's not my wheelhouse. And yet we can ask Spirit anything. So when I ask, is planet Earth changing? Is the frequency changing to one of more of a love-centered reality? I heard a yes, but I heard different frequencies in different parts of the world. And I get where the more well-educated, probably what we would think of Western society, and some of the Eastern, certainly, I mean, the PRC, the Pacific Rim countries and all of that, I'm getting that those are really leading the charge, but there are still some really outdated old beliefs that are keeping some of the energy stagnated with that women and men aren't equal and things like that, and you've got to follow the rules or you're going to burn for eternity. And I'm here to say everybody goes to heaven. There was a movie out called All Dogs Go to Heaven. All people go to heaven too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that thought process feels like such an old paradigm in my world that we can even go there still as people it's quite mind-boggling. But it shows how indoctrinated beliefs are and what cultural norms have kind of embedded in us, really, in some ways, isn't it? And that's our guidance system.
We don't know what a person's spirit came in to explore and experience, and we don't know what their past lives have been. So everybody has a different thing that they're exploring. And I have a friend that always says, you get to do life your way. And so much of that is predicated by the spirit, by the soul, and what the soul wants to explore and experience this round. So I find that fascinating too. When we see a homeless person, we may have pity on them, we may offer to help them, and yet perhaps their spirit wanted to explore total freedom, where they don't have bills, they don't have responsibilities, they don't have the constraints that most of us see as blessings, like a home and a car and money and all of that. It's a totally different way of looking at things. So as I've gotten older and hopefully wiser, I look at things differently from the perspective of, I wonder how that's benefiting that person. Because obviously it is in some way, or they wouldn't be doing it, and their spirit wouldn't be going through it, wanting to explore it.
How do you see the evolution or the soul's purpose in terms of, and I believe this, that we have, past lives and we're experiencing, and there's a body of work that might be deepening through these experiences. I'm just trying to find the right words. How do you see the journey of the soul? Like, what have you come to believe with your own work?
We all come here with one main purpose, and that is to create, to have the experience to create. And we say, well, create what? Create whatever you want all day long. You create what time you get up. You create what you wear. You create what you eat during the day. You create how you interact with the world. Are you going to do a chat with somebody on the other side of the world? What time are you taking your kids to school? I mean, all these things we create all day long. And then we go a step further and we create things that our spirit wants to explore and experience that's connected to past lives. That's been my experience, Guy. So for example, let's say somebody was a murderer in a past life. Well, perhaps in this life they come in and they're the victim of a murderer, or they're the parent of, the spouse of, the sibling of, the child of, the colleague or a friend of. And so each time we come in, we're looking at things from a different perspective, and that helps our soul or our spirit grow. The analogy I like to use for this is, think of Shakespeare writing Hamlet in 1602. Well, how many times has Hamlet been performed since then? Who knows? But you think about, where was it performed? In what year? In what language? Inside, outside? What was happening in the world? Who were the actors? Who was the director? Who was the costumers? All those variables are going to give you a different perspective on the same script. And I think that's a really easy way to understand past lives. When somebody is having a situation in their life and will go explore their past lives and how their past lives in general, and if there are any specific past lives that correlate with what's happening in their life. Let's say they attract the wrong partner and they get betrayed. There will always be a semblance of that script that we'll see repeat in multiple lifetimes. And we're looking at it from a different perspective, a different angle. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just, because I can lean into my own kind of experiences that I've had to work through in my life so far. With that in mind, then, what's the defining factor of we getting to a point where if there's a pattern repeating itself due to past life experiences, that we can finally move past that, to finally let that go? Do we have to embody the lesson? Do we, Like how do you see it or work with that? Because or does it even show up in physical illnesses and
Oh, yeah.
physically show up in the body as well? And it's trying to get our attention to letting that go.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a component of that before any kind of disease or illness sets in, 100% of the time in the work that I do. As I perceive it, Guy, there's this really big, thin plastic bag, let's call it, that is the container that holds the energy that makes up our body and our spirit. And it reminds me of that really thin saran wrap that you'll see like on a tray of chicken breasts from the grocery store. You know, that stuff's thinner and stretchier than the saran wrap in our kitchen drawers. When there's a tear or hole in that, there's an energy leak. Energy leaks always precede any kind of medical condition. And they're caused by an energy block, a la Eastern medicine, acupressure, acupuncture, clear the block, get the chi to move. Energy blocks in turn are caused by an emotional event, either in this life or a past life. So I envision in my mind's eye going into that tear or hole, and I'll get information. If it's this life, I'll get a year. I used to get lots of details, and I still can if I want. But what I'm finding in the last couple of years is that if I just say a year, people know. I would say 99% of the time they know, oh, my parents got divorced. I was in a car accident. I went to a new school. We moved. My little brother died. Whatever. They know what the emotional event was. If it's a past life, I'll get where it was, when it was, what happened, and then we'll correlate it with what's going on in their current life. As soon as we illuminate where that energy block began, I'm not going for the most dramatic or traumatic event. I'm going for where did it begin? Because when we illuminate that, Guy, then it pulls out all the other pent up energy that's piled on top of it for all these years and caused a blowout in that really thin membrane and caused the power to leak. It immediately fixes it. And I've done this tens of thousands of times over the past 30 plus years, and I've never seen an energy-filled membrane rupture after it's been healed, ever. I'm not saying it can't, but I would think I would have seen it by now.
And then once, what have you witnessed once healed, once that rupture has been taken care of?
Then it helps the body heal because first of all, it gets rid of all that emotional energy that's been pent up for however many years. And then the energy-filled membrane is intact, and it helps the body heal because the body's working on full power. May I give an analogy that's really easy to understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine taking your children to the pet store to buy a goldfish. They're going to put it in a plastic bag of water in order for you to get it home. So if you have a picture of that in your mind's eye, the goldfish represents our body. The water represents our spirit because the body's inside the spirit. Most people think the spirit's someplace in the chest area. That's not what I perceive. Body's inside the spirit. And then the plastic bag is the container. It's the energy-filled membrane. So back to that goldfish example, if that plastic bag has a pinhole in it, and water's draining out a drop at a time for a long time, that fish is going to be fine. However, when enough water drains out, that fish is going to be in trouble, and that's what happens to the human body. So we fix that energy-filled membrane, body's working on full power, body has capacity to heal absolutely everything and anything.
Wow. And do you feel then the circumstances and the events and the things, if everything ultimately is energy at the end of the day, and we're just on autopilot, then circumstances keep reoccurring to draw our attention to those leaks?
Well, I call those manifestation events.
Mm-hmm.
And it just tells us that we have something more to explore and what our perspective is in that manifestation event. Because what I've heard about a bazillion times from spirit, and I'm sure you have too, is there's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad in the spirit world. Which is a lot to take in for those of us raised in the Western Judeo-Christian culture where we're taught, you better do this or you're going to burn in hell for eternity. Remember, everybody goes to heaven. All spirits go to heaven. And so when we understand that, okay, this is less than optimal, whatever we're going through. What is it for me to explore? And what's my belief? And how is it not serving me? And that's how we're really faced with those questions, is when we have pain or we have some kind of trauma happen or something along those lines. And it's all about how we choose to perceive it. I have a friend who's 95 whose name's Nina, and she's very wise, obviously, at 95, sharp as a tack, still drives her car. She's a riot. And she, when her kids and her grandkids and her great-grandkids come to her and they're complaining about something, and she'll say, if the situation isn't good, it's just not over yet. Because everything always benefits us in every way. And when we're in the middle of the storm, it's hard to see that. And yet, if we can hold on, okay, this isn't over yet because good is coming out of it, totally shifts everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. And while we're on this topic, I'm just my own curious nature here as well, going on things around soul contracts. Have you explored that as well?
Yeah.
And I tell you why, like, because I had an experience about a month ago, maybe a bit longer, and I was working with a healer, and I knew that I'd, through different, I guess, feeling into it, that there was a soul contract that was linking me to my father's side of the family history, but it was getting to a point where it was holding me back, where my soul wants to continue to expand. And I worked with a healer, and we basically ended that contract. And the moment that happened, I felt a flood of energy come out of my body. I burst into tears. And then the next morning, I spent an hour in meditation burping this energy, old energy coming out of me.
Interesting.
It blew me away. It blew me away.
Huh.
And that was my first real experience of something like that. I was obviously aware of it. So hence why I'm asking you, what are your thoughts?
Well, back to, I believe that we come in and we choose where we're born, when we're born, to whom we're born, and the circumstances into which we're born, so that our lives can have a trajectory to allow us to explore and experience whatever it is we want to explore and experience. And I look at it, Guy, as like a bunch of little mini scripts, different phases in our lives, exploring different things from different perspectives. I have been told from Spirit a whole bunch of times that nothing is set in stone, and that's where the free will portion comes in. And so if we ask for help from our angels, our deceased loved ones, our spirit guides, God, whomever, not necessarily in that order, they're always going to help, intervene, whatever, but they're not going to do anything. They'll maybe put ideas in our heads unless they're asked, because they don't want to interrupt our free will. So, for example, you come in and you want to be a teacher. Well, there are a bazillion ways to be a teacher. Maybe you're a teacher in a grade school and then a high school and then at the university level. Maybe you're a corporate teacher. Maybe you're a teacher like you and I, and we're teaching different things, different topics on our own. Perhaps you're a teacher as a parent. I mean, all parents are teachers. And so you're exploring the teacher script from a different perspective, all at the same time, in a multitude of ways. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it's a fascinating thing that I'm just trying to explore more and more in my own life, because it's affected me on a deep level that I'd never really had experienced before.
Well, the ancestral healing part that you referenced a couple of minutes ago, that's part of the equation of what your spirit wanted to come in and explore and experience. You had this ancestral pattern, and perhaps in this lifetime, you wanted to change it. You wanted to heal it. You wanted to do something differently. You wanted to explore it in the old way, coming in from your ancestors, and then you wanted to change it. You chose to change it and you want to experience it in a different way. When you do that, when we interrupt the old energy from our ancestors, it not only helps them heal. What I've been told is it helps not only us heal, but our future generations heal. So your children and your future grandchildren and great-grandchildren and on down the line.
How much do you think that is, though, affecting our perception and how we experience reality? Those embedded in us, because it's almost like through these experiences, then my own perception and belief systems are fundamentally shifting, right, and it's changing my behavior in many ways, to the point where there's points where I just feel like my whole identity, the big question of who am I? Like, it's amazing how much we identify ourselves with our roles,
right,
that give us a sense of comfort at some deeper level.
Well, and most of our beliefs didn't come from us. They came from others. They came from parents and grandparents and teachers and the media and society and our friends and social media and on and on and on and on. I can give you a fun example. When I was little, my Mima, my beloved grandmother for whom I'm named, used to say if it was windy outside, she'd say, put a hat or a scarf on because you're going to catch a cold. And I grew up, and I still, every time I go outside when it's windy, I can hear her in my head saying, put a hat or a scarf on because you're going to catch a cold. Well, I know colds are viruses. You're not going to catch a cold from the wind. And yet that's so embedded in my brain. And my grandmother's been dead since 2002. So she's been dead for 24 years. And she died a little bit shy of 100. But boy, I can hear her voice still in my head. And I think that's a great example of we have this subconscious stuff that's always playing in the background. And even though I know that that's not how colds are formed, I still hear it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And my beliefs, because I have an ice bath here at home. So I have an ice bath daily and I don't catch a cold. So I don't catch one. Like it's, flips the script completely, doesn't it?
But do you have a big fan blowing on you?
No, but it's cold in winter sometimes. Yeah. But I hear you. And if I'm not mistaken as well, because you worked in the medical industry as well, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I'm an inventor and former manufacturer of surgical devices sold throughout the world.
So how has your belief system shifted around the way we heal in general? If it has, because you even spoke to almost 100% of the time it shows up in the field. It could be emotional, it could be past life. And yet we're living in a world that doesn't even acknowledge that in the medical industry and always just goes straight to the symptom that is presented. I'm standing here right now in Lake Taupo in a beautiful retreat space. And there's a vast difference between an intellectual experience and passive listening to a fully embodied lived experience. Because that's what retreats can do. They can help you land, start to truly reconnect to yourself, to others, to nature, and to spirit as well. There's so much in it. That's why we created Live in Flow, and that's why we are so passionate about getting this work out there and bringing people together. If you want to find out more when our next retreat or event is coming up, just check out the link below. And now, back to the podcast.
I believe that all of it is part of the healing equation. Eastern medicine, Western medicine, chiropractic, homeopathic, energy medicine, all of it is part of the healing equation. And everybody's different. Everybody needs different variables in that equation. So the work that I do complements things from the Western medical model and on and on. What I think about differently is I know now, after doing more than 10,000, it's probably over 20,000 now scans, because I probably talk to about 3,000 people a year and do medical stuff on them. And between my show, between clients, between my lives, things like that, friends and family. And what I know is that everything's healable. I know that the body has a tremendous capacity to heal, even if doctors and our Western medicine says, well, you just have to live with this the rest of your life. Just resign yourself that you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. Not so much. And the other thing is that they're treating symptoms instead of finding the root cause. When somebody comes to me or one of my grads guy, they normally have been to multiple doctors, gotten multiple diagnoses, sometimes multiple treatment plans, and they still have the same symptoms. So they're kind of at their wits' end, and they're saying, okay, I don't really have anything to lose. I can't get in to see another doctor for another 9 months. I might as well try this energy healing thing. And spirit will always go to the root. What's the cause of this symptom? And we'll do a healing at the root. And then I'll get what I call divine downloads. And I'll get, okay, you've got rheumatoid arthritis. We need to change your diet. What are you eating? Because most of the inflammation is coming from your gut. It's not coming from, it's in your joints and it's causing pain. And yet if we can get you to clean up your diet, you're going to go a long way to being able to be out of pain and not have to be on all these serious drugs with all these serious side effects.
So when you're doing an energy scan, a reading for people, you can get all that information coming in and say, oh no, this is probably the source. Because I was fascinated because I dropped into, while researching, listening with you and San Ching when you were out at his temple.
Yeah.
And you spoke about, what did you speak about? And I said, wow, that's fascinating. Around the liver, where a person had been diagnosed with cancer, but it was actually mold. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was the lungs, actually.
Or lungs, was it?
It was the lungs.
Sorry, lungs.
This person had breast cancer, and she had this cough that was just awful. Well, she had just returned from a safari in Africa with her family, like a week before, 2 weeks before. This cough was really bad. And so I scanned her, and she went to the hospital, and they did a CT scan or something, and they saw these lesions, they thought, in her lungs, and they said, oh, your cancer is metastasized to your lungs. I said, no, it hasn't. She's emailing me or texting me, and I said, no, it hasn't. That's mold. I said, you got some kind of a fungal infection on that safari in Africa. I said, get them to give you an antifungal. Well, the doctors in the hospital weren't willing to do that. They wanted her to start chemo right away. And I said, do not start chemo. Just get them to do an antifungal. Just demand it. And they did. And 2 days later, they released her because those lesions in her lungs were gone after she took antifungal medicine. So oftentimes we can see things that are misdiagnosed on the scans because not only am I looking at it in my graduates, but we're also getting led from spirit. You know, this isn't cancer, and this is a mold situation.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And what it sounds like to me is that when you do a medical scan with somebody and you can get that information, you can support them from an energetic field perspective, but then you can also encourage them to support them from a lifestyle perspective.
Right.
That will support the energetic perspective. And because I think it's very easy to fall into, especially when we're in a fear-based place, to just, oh, can you just heal me, Julie? I just need this to go away and I can get on with my life. When I think there's a lot more complexities to it than just that.
Well, absolutely. And what happens is the healing will have taken place on the energetic level. It will be done. And then it will integrate into their body. And that can happen instantly. It can take days, weeks, months, may need some kind of complementary care like change in diet, physical therapy, surgery, medication, whatever. But certainly it's always our spirit's prerogative to utilize a healing in a way that best facilitates whatever it is that spirit is wanting to explore and experience. Perhaps it wants to explore and experience what it's like to be misdiagnosed with cancer and to be able to clear it up in a couple of days and go through all of that dread and horror and fear and all of that, and then come out on the other side and go, oh, thank you, God, that it just took an antifungal. And when somebody's having surgery, the surgery will be performed energetically first, let's say with one of my clients. And I'll say, oh, when you have the surgery, it's just going to be a breeze because it's already done. But again, it's always our spirit's choice whether or not we integrate it and how we integrate it. So everybody's different. And furthermore, everybody heals themselves. If you go to the emergency room with a big cut on your leg, they're going to stitch it up for you, but that doctor's not going to make your skin grow back. You make your own skin grow back. And that's how all this works as well.
That's a really important point, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're setting up the environment because the body's innate wisdom knows what to do.
Exactly. Well, it's like you give somebody a gift. You can't make them open it. You can't make them like it or use it. And that's what the healing is, whether it's coming from a Western medicine doctor or an Eastern medicine practitioner or an energy healer or from the work that you do. What are we doing? We're giving them a gift of this healing, and then their spirit decides whether or not or how they want to integrate the healing based on what the trajectory of their creations are and what they want to explore and experience.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because we had a lady last year come to our retreat that had her cancer return. So she came to our 5-day retreat, and we ended up doing a healing with her and several others towards the end of the retreat, especially with all the momentum's there. And she shared with us after she'd had this experience where spirit came in with these beautiful divine beings and told her to let the light in, like she physically saw them and they were there, and she let more light in. And she had this experience, and now she's still part of our program, and the reduction, it's reduced by half after the retreat and is continuing to go the other way. And she's in a space where she's so grateful for the cancer because of it led her to have that divine experience that you can't even put into words.
Yeah.
And it's life-changing then, isn't it? It's just amazing what's available to us if we let it in a bit more.
Well, and to trust the body's wisdom, to your point earlier of the body knows how to heal. And I have a friend whose mother's 95, and she had some skin cancer on her face. It was squamous cell skin cancer. And of course, they wanted to do surgery on her face. And I'm thinking, really? You want to cut into a 95-year-old woman? And they were putting some medicine on it that was homeopathic. And the dermatologist said, yeah, but it's not doing the job fast enough. And I thought, how do you know what the body is doing behind the scenes to heal it? It's not cutting into her. And there's lots of schools of thought that once you cut into cancer, that it spreads through the bloodstream. Those cells spread. So I think it's a new paradigm, Guy, of us kind of going back to where we were before we had Western medicine, in that the body has a lot of wisdom. The body knows how to heal. It's going to do it in its own time, and it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we've strayed so far from ourselves in some ways due to technology and the pace of life and the stress and the demands that are put on us. We've forgotten who we are in some ways. And I believe all this is waking us up to really start reconnecting back, because I believe that the earth has a soul, like it's a living being as well. So is the sun, and so the universe is completely alive, and the cosmos. And we have, I think, no better than a greater time on this planet right now to come back to experiencing the joy that's available to us if we allow it in. I really do feel that.
It's a choice.
Yeah, it's absolutely a choice, for sure. I wanted to, on the other conversations, I got a couple of other questions here for you, if that's all right.
Sure.
We're going on.
Yeah.
And I think this came from your media sheet. I'm not sure. But DNA and DNA changing.
Yeah.
Have you worked with that, seen that, experiencing that? Like, what are your thoughts on us at a DNA level and what can its potential?
I watch it pretty much every day. I talk to clients
Okay.
and or do a show. So I see DNA get resequenced when it's mutated. Watch it get resequenced back to a normal recipe. And I get these really fun analogies, as you learned from listening to my call-in show. And DNA looks like a piece of paper that you'd see inside a fortune cookie with a fortune written on it. Do your Chinese fortune cookies have pieces of paper in them with a fortune in them down there?
They would do.
Yeah. Because in Asia, I don't think they do. I think
Right.
that's a Western thing. And so I watch. DNA is comprised of 4 nucleic acids represented by 4 letters, A, T, C, and G, as in green. And I watch those letters get resequenced. And I'll watch a strand of DNA get healed, taken back to the normal recipe. And then I watch it snap back into an X chromosome, because everybody has X. Girls have 2 X's and boys have an X and a Y. And so I see that all the time. I see it a lot with cancer patients. There'll usually be about 7 strands of DNA that will get resequenced that have mutated usually from environmental factors. It's very rarely genetic, that it's a family curse or something from a genetic standpoint. I'm using the word curse very loosely here. And so I watch it get resequenced. So it's epigenetics instead of genetics. It's what have we been exposed to? And then I'll watch that get fixed. It's fascinating, the things that I get to see in these healings.
Yeah, no, epigenetics. Yeah, I remember hearing the term once. It's like we can be carrying a loaded gun, but we never have to pull the trigger. And it's the lifestyle choices we are making is really whether we choose to pull that trigger or not with inside us, which I find really empowering.
Well, the other thing about pulling the trigger too is, as I mentioned, we all decide when we're born, where we're born, to whom, and the circumstances into which we're born. Same thing when we die, when our spirit and our body separates. We make that choice too. We choose when we go, where we go, who's with us or not when we go, and what the circumstances are that surround our passing. And using the analogy of pulling the trigger, well, a lot of people are shot and they don't die. It's the person who's shot, the person that receives the wound. It's their spirit who decides whether or not they're gonna die or pass on from that gunshot wound. And so people will say, well, no, this was the murderer. Yes, that's the person that pulled the trigger, but the person who died was the one that decided to go out through that method of being shot, which is an interesting perspective on murdering somebody.
It is. I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
Not that
Yeah. One other point about that, if I may, if in fact we're all choosing where, when, what the circumstances are that we pass and all of that, who's with us or not. And this isn't just coming from me. This is coming from medical providers and hospice care workers and funeral home directors. They'll say, yeah, my grandmother waited till Aunt Bobby Sue went out to get a cup of coffee, and she was gone for 5 minutes out of the room, and she checked out. And Aunt Bobby Sue had been sitting with her for 3 weeks straight. And they're going, Grandma, what's up with that? Well, Grandma thought it would be easier for Aunt Bobby Sue to be out of the room when she took her last breath. And so if that's the case, Guy, the thing that is an interesting question to me is, are all forms of death a form of suicide? If we're all deciding where, when, how, do we die by cancer? Do we get hit by a bus? Do we take our own lives? What happens? But are all of them perhaps a form of suicide? I think they are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So as souls, we predetermine it before we come in. This is how we're gonna go.
I haven't found that to be the case.
Right.
I have found that we decide when we're going to go and all of that. And it's not necessarily predetermined. There are a lot of people that teach, okay, you got 4 exit points and you got to take one of them. I have not found that to be the case at all.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I've never really thought about it. It's it's something that it is interesting. Do you feel like I can't remember why I've had so many podcast episodes. I lose track of the people I talk to, but he said that as people are just as upset when they grieve when we lose a loved one that are going back to spirit. Well, it's the same for spirit when they're coming in. He believed that they were like waving goodbye and then coming into physical form. And I thought that was interesting as well at the time.
I don't get
kind of
that.
concept.
I don't get that because spirit is all around. Those spirits in heaven that are saying, oh, bye, Johnny, you're going to go reincarnate down, and hang out with Guy and be one of his kids. Well, those spirits are all around little Johnny, and they're all around Johnny when Johnny's growing up. And so the other thing that I find really fascinating, and I don't understand it, and I just go to a place of, is it feasible? Yeah. Well, I understand it when I get back to heaven. Yes. And that is that the concept that we live multiple lifetimes concurrently. And that just kind of makes my head want to explode because I don't understand it. And yet I get from spirit that that is true.
Well, I can say I've had experiences where I've been taken out of my body and been taken down wormholes and to different areas and shown different experiences. And it felt like I'd been there at some capacity before as well. And
but happening concurrently though?
Well,
in that
I don't
situation?
know. Yeah, I don't know. But that opened my belief system or awareness to, holy moly, that there is so much more to experience than my little limited self is even feasible. So I kind of, in my own mind over the years, have constructed the idea that if we're multiple lives concurrently, they're all like nerve endings to consciousness and giving this direct feedback loop, And
is that what's happening with schizophrenics?
It's possible.
Because when their blood pressure and their blood values and things like that are measured, they're different. Like somebody can be a diabetic in one personality and they can be, and maybe it's not schizophrenic, maybe it's multiple personality disorders. Maybe there's a difference in the two. I think of schizophrenic as multiple personality disorders, but I had somebody correct me one time, sent me an email and said, no, that's multiple personality disorders, but their blood type can be different. Their, all these different, like their blood pressure's different.
Wow.
All these different variables that can be measured from a medical perspective. And you're thinking, all right, what's going on here with that?
Yeah.
There's way more to the story than meets the eye.
It totally is. And it's a head spin, and I enjoy exploring it, but I also deal with what's in the here and now and right in front of me because you can get so lost and caught up in that stuff. And I think, wow, where does it end? Maybe leave it to be in the mysteries of the universe. Right. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah. I had one little closing loop in my brain on the DNA because we got into the transitioning of death and that. But do you know, explored much about junk DNA as well? And if that is dormant potential within us?
Absolutely. And so I think junk is a misnomer. I think all DNA is made by the creator. It's perfect. And that as we evolve, more and more types of DNA come into play for different things. And who's to say that DNA doesn't play a role in our telepathic abilities or our intuitive abilities or something along those lines? I don't think that anything's wasted. Another interesting aside, a friend of mine runs a big genetics research foundation and institute here, and I live in Alabama in the southeastern part of the U.S., and it's in Huntsville, Alabama. It's called Hudson Alpha, and they are investigating DNA that they manufacture to store data, because there's so much data storage in the DNA strands, and we're using just a fraction of it. So they can create synthetic DNA and store, like, you got how many megabits or tegabits or whatever that those terms are. And there's a lot of research going on in that. And they're using DNA as a model because they know that DNA has the capability to store so much information, and we're not using very much of it in the human body.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
And I had Greg Braden on a few months ago talking about the DNA, and he was talking about, and this was peer-reviewed study, that, where the crossovers are antennas for light. And that's how we receive, hooking up to our own
that makes sense.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
So that, and yet when we go into states of fear, that DNA compresses, and it creates that sense of separation from source, because the antennas are being muted.
Have you ever seen the video of the moment of conception, when the egg and when the sperm penetrates the egg, and there's a spark of light that happens, and it's really fascinating about how we're all just made of energy,
isn't it? Yeah. So in my own mind and feeling, what's happening as well is that as we clear that energy within us more, that light receptor becomes stronger, allowing us to embody more light. That's what I feel is happening. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. But unless one goes through it, it's hard to describe to someone until they start to feel it for themselves.
I agree.
Yeah. Before I wrap up the podcast as well, I've got a note here which sparked a thought with the book, because you got the book Angelic Attendants there. What does that mean?
Angelic Attendants, what really happens as we transition from this life into the next. And it has what happens, how we're surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. And it has illustrations in it of the positions of the angels. And that's the 12 phases of transition, how the angels and the loved one spirits and the pet spirits are positioned around the person who's dying, regardless of if they die instantly, like in a case of a homicide or suicide, or whether they die over a prolonged period of time, days, weeks, months, even years, because time isn't a thing in the spirit world. So, a lifetime of 100 years may not even be a blip on the radar screen in the spirit world, because it's a human creation. So anybody that wants a free copy, just go to julieryangift.com, and we'll send you a free digital and audiobook download. And we have it in Spanish too, if anybody wants it in Spanish. So I give away thousands of these every year. And many churches and synagogues and hospice facilities throughout America give them to every family that comes in to plan a funeral. And I'm working with the U.S. military now to get it distributed throughout the U.S. military. So that's pretty exciting. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's validated with university-based research that says 90% of people at the end of their lives do, in fact, see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets and angels, either in dreams or in visions. And it's very comforting to them, the dying person, and also the family members.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Like, I keep reverting back, but at a retreat, it's a common occurrence. We'll feel it all come into the field as we work through the week. It's amazing. And people have those connections to ones that have crossed over, or animals and things, and it's
well, we used
beautiful.
to think that grandma was hallucinating because they'd given her a bunch of morphine from hospice, and what turns out is she's not hallucinating at all. She can actually see and communicate with those spirits, and they find it to be very comforting. So the fact that 90% of people see those spirits, that's pretty conclusive from a a research standpoint. I love it when science catches up with woo-woo, because woo-woo's been around a whole lot longer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And where can people find out more about you and your work and your trainings and your teachings? Where can we send them to?
AskJulieRyan.com. Everything's at AskJulieRyan.com. I'm on all the socials at Ask Julie Ryan. My show is Ask Julie Ryan, the Ask Julie Ryan Show, which you've been on, I think, a couple of times, which has been fun. And so everything's at AskJulieRyan.com.
Amazing. Well, links will be in the show notes as well below. And Julie, what a pleasure. I really, really enjoyed our conversation.
Me
It's so
too.
wonderful to have you back on, my lovely.
Always a treat to be with you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.